Seipati. How do you pronounce your surname? Tabudi.
Yes.
Please, can you say it for me?
Tabudi.
Tabudi. Tabudi.
Yes, it's Tswana.
I always say your name and your surname, but obviously I take license because you're not around. But since you're here, I'm going to pronounce it properly. Seipati Tabudi.
Yep.
Tabudi. Welcome to the platform. I'm honored to have you here. I'm a huge fan of your work. I'm so inspired by you just as a person and your story. And I know you personally, but I'd like to introduce you at least to my audience and to the world and the work that you're doing. I'm going to start off with a disclaimer. I really suck at interviews. I normally have conversations where I interrupt and I talk a lot. But today I'm going to try my best to keep quiet and just allow you to speak. And I hope you'll be comfortable with that. Just to kick it off, your name, what it means, if you represent a tribe, a cultural group, you can tell us about that. And then where home is, and tell us about your upbringing.
Sure. Firstly, thank you for having me. I'm happy that you find my life interesting enough to talk about it. So the name Seipati means hiding. So somebody that's hiding. No.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm told the reason I was given that name is because my mom's family only knew later on that she was pregnant.
Jeez, your mom was hiding you.
Yeah.
Okay. They could have called you secrets as well. Okay.
I'm not from Zim. But anyway, so I was born in Davidton, raised in Duduza, Davidton. We were just moving around a lot. And yeah, mom and dad have been there from day one. They got married, I think, when they had their second child, my younger sister, Julia. And they're Christians. Ubaba Mfundis was a pastor because he's late now. And my mom is still a pastor. So I was brought up in a religious or Christian family in the church. And that's just my foundation. Everything that I do is, centered around that. And yeah, I'm Tswana. Dad is Tswana. Mom is Shangan. You think she's colored.
Amashangana normally dark.
Well,
no, I don't know. I'm asking.
Okay, let's not.
Or people wouldn't assume, is what you're saying.
Yeah, especially because her dad is from Maputo, Mozambique. Yeah, but now he was like mega kanya cool,
Your grandfather was Mozambican.
Yeah.
So you've got some Mozambican heritage in you, and Shangan and Tswana.
And Tswana.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was 6 of us at home. I'm the oldest, but now there's only 4 left. My younger sister, so there was 3 girls and 3 boys. We lost my younger sister 18 years ago. She was gang raped and she contracted HIV and died from that. And recently lost my younger brother as well. Very tragic, but we'll talk about that.
Okay, I just want to apologize about the loss of your sister. You and I have spoken about it personally, and I guess this is a moment to maybe highlight just quickly the issues we have in society. And maybe if you have maybe a message, number one, to women that have experienced the same, whether it's gang rape or just rape by one person, your thoughts on that, specifically having seen your sister deal with that. And then maybe a message to young men of something just to consider, to try and assist in lowering the scourge that we have.
So I think I would say it's very important for women to speak up. And I know that as a society, we haven't created a safe space for them to feel comfortable enough to come up or come out and say, I've experienced this. Because with her, we only found out later, I think a year or so, when she started falling ill, that she was actually gang raped. She attended a party of a friend, the 21st, I think, and that's where the incident happened. However, we only noticed with the behavioral change that something was eating her up. And, later on, she was able to then talk about it. And unfortunately, it was too late because she was now very ill. And we pursued a criminal case. And while they were busy with the investigations, she passed on. And that was the end of it. So there was no justice there. And I think also as society, we play a big role in turning the other way. We're not willing to stand up for the truth and say, I have information that can help put those responsible behind bars or anything like that. So we have become the kind of society that says, as long as it doesn't concern me or it hasn't hurt my child, I will not get involved. But the truth of the matter is that if it can happen to my family, it could happen to any family. So I wish we could have more people who will say, I will stand up no matter the consequences. I will stand for the truth so that we can become a better society. Because we have kids. They grow up. They could be victims. They could be perpetrators.
Correct.
So,
they could be perpetrators.
Yeah.
You could be raising someone who ends up violating someone tomorrow.
Absolutely. Especially if they see that, okay, so my family is not the kind that stands up for the truth. That means I can get away with anything. So kids imitate what they see us do more than what they hear us say.
Yeah.
So it's important to be role models for our children, stand for the truth and teach them what is right at all times.
The incident that happened at the party, are you aware if the perpetrators were people that they knew that were also at the party?
Yeah, some of them we still, bump. We see them. I mean, they've got families now, they're husbands to people.
How does that make you feel?
At first, I was bitter, I was angry, and I had to choose peace in order for me to be able to move forward. But I think what hurt me the most is how it impacted my father.
Yeah.
It really broke him. He was, as I said, he was a pastor, and he had a moment of where he backslided and wanted nothing to do with God, nothing to do with the church. That's just how this whole thing impacted
He felt
him.
like God was not there to intervene and...
Yeah. But later on he dealt with it and was able to go back to his roots or foundation. Yeah.
I know this is an unfair question and it's a bit of a deviation. How do you think we get justice for people close to us when they've been violated by people we have access to? It's very unfair for me to ask this.
I will give you an example that happened recently when I finally found out who actually killed my younger brother. I was driving from church and he was crossing the street. And a part of me wanted to run him over. Yeah, just...
It's very normal, very rational.
And I didn't even feel guilty about that. As Christian as I am, I felt, I know the justice system has failed us as a family before, and there's a great chance that it will again. So you get to a point where you feel, I could do something about it. Yeah. And then you realize, is it worth it? Is it going to bring him back? So there's a great chance, that nothing will ever happen to these people. You get to live with them in the community. Chances are they will do it again to another person. And I think as a family, where we are is we would like them to be held responsible so that it doesn't happen to the next person. Yeah.
I think this is a good opportunity to speak about your brother rather than waiting.
Yeah, sure. So
he's the handsome chap on...
They all handsome.
Hey, shout out to Abazali.
This is Khonzi.
Yes.
Tabudi, yes. He was the last born son. He was 26 or 24. He lived with my mom and he was part of the programs that we run at our organization.
Okay.
We've just introduced the agriculture project and he was part of that. So we've got a farm, nearby. And on that Friday, he decided that he's not going to go in. You know how boys are. And
it's a Friday, Baba.
It's a Friday. He probably had plans, etc. And I might not be able to share details because the case is still under investigation, but I'll just give you a brief as to what happened. So he woke up that morning, cleaned up his room, took a bath, and told my mom that he's coming back just now. And that was it.
Yeah.
The next minute or the next 30 minutes, my mom gets a call from the office because our development center is like 2 or 3 streets away from where my mom stays.
Yeah.
And the incident happened 5 houses away from our office. So he goes out to a friend. Apparently, this friend owed him money, and he went to collect his money.
Yeah.
So he gets to this friend, and this friend tells him, Eshintanga, I don't have the money right now, but hold on to this. We can sell this. It's a device that charges phones. Right? So he says to his friend, okay, I'm going to go check it out to check if it works.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to sell something that doesn't work.
Doesn't work, yeah.
So he goes up. He doesn't have a phone. So he goes to his friend. He gets there, Ntanga, can I use your phone to check if this thing works? Now, what's confusing is that when Ntanga gave him the phone, he shifted. So it makes one question if the guy knew what this device is.
Yeah. This is another person now.
Yeah, this is another.
No longer the guy
No longer
who was
the one
giving
who
him.
gave him.
The guy who gave him is not there.
Is not there anymore.
He's given him the thing. Your brother's like, let me go see if it works with another friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he shifts from him. So he connects the wires into the phone and then it blows up. It explodes. So when we got to the scene, okay, my mom got to the scene first, and luckily he was still breathing. He was still alive. He was in pieces. So if you've seen war movies, you can imagine his leg was over there, his skin all over the place. We had to pick it up from next door, and it was just tragic. He died in a savagely violent manner. Like, you don't see these things happen often. You probably watch it in the movies, and maybe when the scene comes on, you hide or you close your eyes. And yeah, she got to the scene, and she says that when she got the phone call, because she was at home cooking for the students, she left everything, got into the car, started praying that, Lord, please do me this one favor. Let me find my son alive so that I can speak to him for the last time. And in that condition, Khunsi was not supposed to have lived a minute longer. But mom got there and Khunsi was still breathing, and she got to speak to him. And, she says she told him to just focus on God, ask for forgiveness, and, and I think a minute or two later, he took his last breath. So I was at the farm when I got the phone call. I drove like crazy. I was calling the ambulance, and I had this plan in my mind to say, okay, so if I know the ambulance will take long to arrive, so we'll just put him in the car quickly, rush him to a private hospital, just so that they can stabilize him because he's not on medical aid. And then later we can move him to, just as long as we can just get him stabilized. That was the plan that was just running in my head. And when I arrived at the scene, it was a totally different story. He was already covered with a blanket. And yeah, you can imagine. Anyway, it took another 2 hours for the emergency people to arrive, the police, because now this was a crime scene. They had to, forensic came, they took pictures, blah, blah, blah. And now, people are taking pictures. It's just crazy. Anyway, to cut a long story short, they take our statements and, yeah.
When did this happen?
On
Just
the
a month in
17th of November.
2023.
Yeah, last year.
I'd like to know how you're feeling today.
I think my mind is struggling to come to terms with the fact that he's gone, number one. And it is struggling to come to terms with the way that he died. Khunsi was a loving person, and I'm not saying this to buy anyone's face. Yeah. He was, sorry, he was able to lighten up a room with his smile, and he was incapable of getting angry with anyone. He was that kind of boy, uma abonu mama ahlike taxini with heavy bags, whether he knows you or not, he'll volunteer to help you carry and walk with you to where you're going. He was that person who, if he's done something wrong, he will not lie. He will confess. Yeah. I remember there was an incident where he took my phone, blah, blah, blah. And we didn't know who took it. And he sent me a message like, I want to talk to you face to face about your phone. Because it would eat him alive, So he was just that kind of person. He was a replica of my dad. Thank you. So he was a replica of my dad. Very loving. He would put other people first. Khonzi would come to me and ask for money so that he could give his friend money to buy nappies for his child. He was just that person, And I think to answer your question about how I feel, I think I'll need the tissue.
Sure.
Okay. So to answer your question about how I feel, at first, we are a family that has dedicated its life, its time, its everything to helping the community. Before funding came along, before all these donors came along, we would dig deep into our pockets to make sure that our neighbor's child is able to go to school, or umama was next door is able to get to the clinic. So to me, how it felt, I thought, this is the first thing that came to my mind, that, Lord, we've given up everything. I gave up corporate. My parents gave up businesses to take care of the communities, people in general, because we have this incredible love for people, which engayazi ukuthi buyaphi. And my question was, Lord, you couldn't take care of our own.
So I think for the sensitivity of the Tabudi family and Seipati herself, I'm going to request that we maybe close the conversation around Ukhonzi and carry on with the interview around the work that she does, because it is so emotional and the case is still ongoing. And my fear is triggering Usisi even more right now, because I wanted to ask about the family and those things, but out of respect for them and the incident, I think I can do that off camera. And Seipati, if you'll allow me, I think I'll just try and focus on the work that you're doing. But if at any time you do want to say anything, please feel free. It's completely up to you.
Sure.
Happy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Maybe without dwelling too much on your upbringing, I want to commend you on your resilience and your strength, you and the entire family. Where do you think that comes from? How did you get into the community work that you're doing now?
Okay, so I must apologize for that. I'm really sorry.
Please do not ever apologize for your truth, your emotions, and for real life things that have happened to you and your family. Don't ever apologize for that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the work that we do, I think it was born out of the tragic loss of my younger sister. Because that's when my parents went in full force, into charity work. They had businesses. They were in mining at some point. They had a logistics company at some point. I might not remember the other work that they did. And we used to live in a fancy house in the suburbs. And we went to, multiracial schools. And when this happened, I think there's things that happen in our lives that alter our character, or they just change who you are or how your perspective of life.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened with them. And they just left everything and focused on making sure that, a black child is taken care of. And out of that, an organization called Shabak School Ministry was born.
Shabak Schools Ministry.
Yeah. So the meaning of Shabak, if I'm correct, is to praise praise loudly, I think.
Yeah.
Eh? So that organization started, they dealt with psychosocial programs in the schools, in communities. I remember we would have, so growing up, we didn't have a normal dining room, a sitting room, where you would have couches, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Ours was filled with PCs, computers,
Yeah.
and sewing machines, because they taught abomama who were unemployed ukuthunga,
Yeah.
and young people computer skills. At the time, bekulawa makhulu yaban, the big screen with the big...
Oh yeah, scoop
Yeah. Yeah, so you could imagine the space it took up.
Yeah.
And that was our lives. It was not possible to bring friends around because then
busy.
it was weird. You know, it's not a normal setup. Like
Yeah.
more we are where you would sit and watch TV. There's couches and all that.
Yeah.
And that's how we grew up. Our home always had people around, you know, and they had no funding at the time. They would knock at companies and ask for old computers. That's how they started the training.
Yeah.
They would knock at companies and ask for old sewing machines. And that's how they started the garment making training. And when they first got their funding, they were already running with this. And I think, you know, I must mention this, that oftentimes people who want to go into the space think that I cannot start if I don't have funding or I don't have a donor. And that's completely false. A donor is more comfortable giving you his money when he has seen that you trust your vision enough to invest in it first.
Correct.
You know, so that's basically how it all started. You know, it escalated to training in prisons. They would train inmates, emajele, you know, the different skills. I remember when I finished high school, one of my first jobs, because I had a number of them, was I was training inmates. There's a prison in Southgate, I forgot the name.
Not a Sun City.
Juvenile. Yeah, a juvenile.
I forgot what it's called officially, but it's Sun City.
Yeah, so
if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. So I used to train them in computer lapo. I moved on to Pretoria Central, CMAX. I would have students coming into my class. That's how hectic it was. But I used to enjoy it so much. Because, you know, these people, they're very loving. They're very nice people, you know. So that's the work that they used to do for charity. They did a lot of donations, school uniform, you name it. So that's basically that. That's how it started. And it has moved on from that. When Dad passed away, we then, in his honor, decided to change the name of the organization from Shabak School Ministry to the Meshack Tabudi Foundation. And one of the reasons for that is that I noticed how they struggled to actually find funders or donors because most companies don't want to associate with religious organizations. So the word ministry in the organization name was giving a lot of problems. And so we decided to change the name to the Meshack Tabudi Foundation. And it's been going well ever since, you know. We've been doing great things.
I think Sun City Prison is Johannesburg Prison, but it's other side of Southgate for people that know it.
Yeah.
As a young person, you never were angry at the work they were doing. I can imagine ordinary kids being like, I want a normal life. Why are you always helping people? Why can't we have our space? Did you ever feel like that?
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's strange that I'm actually in this space myself. Growing up, I used to hate it so much because it took resources out of our family.
And time away.
Your
parents are busy raising other people's children.
And how they compensated for that is that, you know, when we were old enough, they would take us with to do the work. I mean, I would attend to their administration work. My brothers would attend to filming and taking pictures. So it was a collective effort.
Yeah.
And I think that's how they felt they're compensating for time away from, a normal family setup. And that is why, even to this day, the whole family is involved in running the organizations, because we were taught earlier on how to run these charity organizations.
We speak a lot about family businesses. We can come up with many examples. We don't speak, or I've never heard people speak about family non-profit organizations, which I think becomes a very beautiful story to tell, especially because I know you personally. You've carried on with that legacy where your own children are involved as well. Do you think that is the model for people out there listening? Or do you think, even with your experience and your exposure, that, look, if you're going to have a vision and a dream, do it yourself, and only bring in your kids, maybe your parents if they're interested? Or should you make it a joint effort and be like, I want you guys to know who I am and to come work with me because this is me. I don't have some big fancy business that sounds sexy. This is what I do, and I'd like you guys to get to know me and work with me in what I'm doing.
It's very important not to force it upon your kids. Let it be something that you expose them to, and they make the decision to whether follow through with it or not. For example, Blessing, my other brother, now works for an IT company. But he was also very much involved in the organizations. I feel, this is how I'm going to answer it. As a Christian, someone with a religious background, I believe that God is a generational God. So what I mean by that is that the vision that he instilled in my parents, or let me put it like this, a seed that he put in them, one of us, it carries on. I say this because I hated charity work. I hated what it was about, because it was more about, you're not allowed to make profit. You can't live out of it. Any money that comes in, you can't touch it. It's for the people, blah, blah, blah. So I hated that idea, because my idea was, we lost our beautiful home. We're living in a cramped out house. We are poor. I want to be rich. I want to make money. So I'm definitely not following in their footsteps. And when the bug hit, there was no turning around. I couldn't believe. I was like, is this me? So the seed is bound to continue in some of your children. I wouldn't say they forced it, but we were all exposed to it. And many of us, amongst my siblings, hated it, and abanye, they were okay, and they followed the path. So I think, as parents, I'm actually doing that to my own children now. My daughter is graduating this year with her BCom law.
Congrats to her.
Thank you. And she volunteers in the organization already. She facilitates life skills programs. I get to send her to other provinces to do work and all that, and she understands that she is not forced to, but I can see the love she has for it.
So the bug is carrying on.
So it's a generational thing. And, I don't think it will stop at any point. Maybe her kids also will continue with it. And I think what I'm most happy about is that the one who started it, which is my father, Azang Ife, when he died, it continued even past his death. And I think the reason for that is because he was very wise. He had it all mapped out. What we're doing is just following every instruction that he has put out there. He documented everything that we're doing. It's in writing. He said, this and this must be done, and we're following it to the T. And it's working out perfectly.
The narrator is Seipati Tabudi, and then the
mother.
author is Delightful Tutuklaba, the harbinger of the millennial.
Yes.
The book about your father.
The book about my father.
If you can just give a summary of who your father was, just as a person, outside of his work, who he was, and what this book, what it tells to a person who maybe wants to read it.
Okay, so how do you describe a man like my father? I always say he's the kind of gentleman who has set the standard very high for other men out there. Firstly, he was a very God-fearing man. He could not be bought. It's very important I emphasize this, is because there are times when we could have gotten our financial freedom or breakthrough growing up, but because it came with a price tag, he would say, no, it's okay, and move on. He was a very loving father, very present, too present. Because when I got my first job, Dad took me to my interview. He would take me to work, come back and pick me up. He was just involved in every detail of my life. When he would come every Saturday. Dad was there every Saturday. He was just too involved. He was there, and I appreciate that so much, because little did we know that we won't have him for too long. He was a sickly man. I think when I was about 3 years old, he had to go for an operation, which almost took his life. But by God's grace, it didn't. But yam kosela epilepsy. So he lived with epilepsy all his life. So we spent most of our time as kids also esibhedlela, in and out. I think bekungandluli 2 weeks angangenanga esibhedlela.
Without an episode.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So that was his life. But even in the midst of that, he was still able to do the work that he was doing. And let me just go back to the issue of the operation, because we found out later on that the operation wasn't supposed to happen, right? So it was more of negligence from the doctor's side.
Jeez.
And when we tried to sue, and we found out this from other doctors, to say, but this was unnecessary and it is the cause of your epilepsy. And when we tried to sue, none of those doctors were willing to come forward and say, we will stand and
witness and confirm that there was negligence.
Yeah, so it was more like, it's just going to be a waste of time. But it really almost ruined our lives, because remember, he was able to work for himself. He was able to make an income. He was able to take care of us like any father should. And when this happened, it was just a total turnaround. Always highly intoxicated with the drugs that he had to take for his epilepsy. It got to a point where they were no longer effective in his body, and he would be hospitalized for 3 months or so. So he'd be away from us so that they can drain the drugs from his system, then come back, take the drugs again for another. So, we never really, it was just a mess. However, 5 years before his passing, he was completely healed. No epilepsy, no medication, nothing. Now we were starting to enjoy Dad, him as a normal person. This
happened spontaneously?
Yeah.
Okay.
Out of nowhere. I would say, he always prayed. So I think he prayed for his healing. And it eventually came, So, we really enjoyed the last 5 years, because with the drugs came the after effects. Be it depression, be it, violence as well sometimes. He was not himself for that many years, right? They would cause him some mental issues, and he would have to be put in a mental institution. But you read all about it, it's in the book. And the reason we felt we had to write the book is because he had the kind of illness, megamile in public, you can't tell that he has a disability. So I always had this thing, Yaguti, people knew he was very intelligent, he was very smart, and maybe others would ask, but how come he was never rich, or he never made so much money? And they never really understood that behind closed doors we were really dealing with a monster, which is the epilepsy, the drugs that he had to take on a daily, just, having to deal with the fact that, is he going to wake up tomorrow? Or could this be his last episode? That's just how hectic it was. So we had to live that kind of life where he's doing quite well in public. He can stand there, assembly, or wherever he's expected to be preaching, etc. But when this starts, he's a completely different person. And the public is not aware of that, or the people that he works with are not aware of that, you know. So we felt we had to write his story, tell his story, so that people really understand what he had to go through. And even with what he had to go through, the amount of work that he did cannot even be compared to anyone who has all types of resources and a perfect health.
Sure.
You know, he achieved so much in changing young people's lives. He achieved so much in helping families all around. And I think that if he had proper resources, he could have done even much more. If he had more time, he could have done even much more.
Mantombi sounds like the type of woman every man would strive to have. Sadly, she's lost a husband, she's lost 2 kids, and she's still standing strong. And luckily, her firstborn daughter is Imbogoto as well. Any words you'd like to say about your mom?
Oh, yeah. What do I say? Incredible. Resilient. You know, that woman has seen it all. She stood by my dad when other women would have said, I didn't sign up for this. Because when they met, he was perfectly healthy. He was handsome. Being articulate.
Jeez.
You know, so, and this happened, but she stood by him all throughout, you know. I don't think that anyone would really stand by a man who is not able to work and provide for his family. But she did. And, you know, they did everything together. Babababies are my twins. Because when they do charity work, they're there together. When they do business, they're there together. When they do ministry work, they're doing together. You know, so it was like this partnership that could not be broken, you know. And she was raised by a father who owned businesses. And I think Umkulu was more of a, you know, those very strict militarian type of men.
Yeah, militant grandfather.
Yeah. So
what's your mom's maiden name? Sorry.
Khoza.
Khoza.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the difference between mom and dad is that dad was able to show affection. So dad would hug you and tell you that he loves you. Mom found that very strange. You know, but she learned, and I think she's getting better compared to how she was when we were growing up. So that was, and I think they just complemented each other. Omunye is from a background of very strict and all that. And my father's parents were pastors as well, you know. So, and I think that's where he took his ability to show affection and, you know, from he got that from his parents. So mom is a very strong woman. I remember during a period, when people would come, bazo Kalisa, Begu who encourages them, you know, as strange as that sounds, but yeah, she is just, and very, very religious. She prays about everything. She prays about everything. Dad was very open-minded. You know, he knew that certain things have to be tackled head on. If umuntu kumele umshange mpama to deal with them, he's willing to do that. But mom is the type that will say, no, but the Bible says you must turn the other cheek. You know? So, yeah, I guess they just balanced each other out so much and so greatly. And for me, growing up under a setup like that, as I said, dad set the standard too high for men. I guess that explains why I'm not married. Like you look for something similar to that.
Married anymore?
Yeah.
You did mention earlier that your father
flip.
would take you to...
Oh, no, that lasted
Puma skeletons. You said your father was there, took you to...
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
Not married anymore?
Not anymore.
Okay.
That lasted like a year or so.
Okay.
Let's not go into that. But anyway.
No problem.
So, you know, you look for a man that is or has qualities that your father had or something like that. And in this day and age, it's kind of difficult to find that. Usually when I tell people that, they're like, hey, you're making a very unfair comparison. You know that your father was, you know, you will never be able to find anything that matches that. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to loosen up and say, okay, we'll take whatever comes.
Do you think it's a form of daddy issues? You know, we speak about daddy issues where the father was absent and the woman craves a father figure. So she looks for that in a partner. Sometimes she ends up dating old men because she still craves ubaba.
Yeah.
Then you've got situations like yours where your dad is so perfect that now other guys have to struggle with my dad. You know the car my dad bought, and you know at home you're like, yo, sissy, I am not your father. Go marry the O. Let me live my life.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a form of daddy issues?
Well, I guess the opposite could be true as well, because, you do kind of look for, like I said, qualities that he had, and or the kind of love he gave your mom.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, if I can't get that, then it means I'm settling for less.
Jeez. Do you ever consider with these type of daddy issues becoming your father and then looking for a partner that is like your mom in a man?
Ooh. Okay.
Never thought of that.
That took me by surprise. I'll try it. We'll have another interview and I'll tell you.
Okay.
Good. I've tried it. It failed, or it's going great.
I'm now my dad, and I'm looking for my mom in a man.
Yeah.
The Meshack Tabudi Foundation. You say it focuses on psychosocial issues. For an ordinary person, they don't know what that means. I understand psycho is psychological, mind. Social is community issues.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, what does the foundation do for someone who's like, this sounds interesting, I want to come closer. I heard this lady speaking about her father's vision. What exactly do you guys do?
Okay, so with psychosocial programs, it's more on giving counseling programs counseling, running programs that deal with the social ills that we, deal with on a daily basis, especially in the school setup. There's issues of bullying, violence, gangsterism, teenage pregnancy. The list is endless.
Yeah.
So we've put together a 5-day program, which we call a crisis intervention program. So we would get called into a school when there's a crisis, be it maybe violence, or vice versa.
Students stabbed each other, girl is
killed
pregnant,
each other even, So we'd come in, we've got a team of volunteers that have been trained as professional counselors, and they would roll out the program for 5 days just so that we can stabilize the situation, give counseling to those who need counseling. We even take it a step further where we involve the parents of, the perpetrator and the victim, and see how we can reconcile them and have peace and be able to get the students back to the schooling environment and have, proper learning and teaching continue. Yeah, but so that's basically the programs that we
the focus is on schools, and school issues are not disrupting normal learning.
Yeah, so the focus is on schools. However, like I said, we do take it a step further where we would involve the parents if there is a need. And then outside of the school, we have what we call a family help desk. This is now, where families who have issues could come through and find help. Be it mhlambe umntana is doing drugs and needs rehab, we will facilitate the application process of getting them into a rehabilitation. It's quite interesting. We've managed to build good relations with even the private rehabilitation centers out there, which charge an arm and a leg. But because of the relationship that we have with them, we are able to say, if we motivate for the kid to come into the program, we will just raise money for admission fees.
What's an arm and a leg for people that don't know? Private drug rehab centers?
Nothing less than 23,000.
23,000 rand?
Yeah.
For how long? Do they give a duration?
So the program runs for 3 months, right?
3 months, 23,000.
Yeah.
For the ordinary family, that's unaffordable.
Yeah. So these are rehabs that you would usually find those with medical aid.
Okay.
Or celebrities. Or abantwana bama politicians.
Sure.
Yeah.
That happens a lot as well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, those are the kind. And they're very effective. I mean, they run programs that are able to help them or help these kids even beyond. By that I mean, when you exit, that's where the biggest problem is, when they exit the program and having to go back to the same situation that got them into the drugs in the first place. That's where the real struggle starts, because most of them really do relapse. They relapse because
the environment hasn't changed.
Yeah, So, but they give them skills and ways to deal with that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying 100% of those we've taken to rehab came and there was success stories. Actually, we have a very low number of success stories.
Low success rate.
Yeah.
And that's being practical and honest.
I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, oh, no, we saved this one. Look, the truth of the matter is that if the child goes back to the same environment, now I want to just elaborate on same environment. I'm not only talking about ukuthi elokishini kuthengiswa drugs, they'll be able to access the drugs easily, but also the family setup. If the mindset is not changed to say we're now dealing with a different person. Remember, before he went to rehab, he's probably messed up the family so much.
Sure.
He's stolen from them. He's been violent. He's done, So by the time he leaves to go get help, the mental state of the family is in such a state. And it's difficult for them to be able to move past that unless they get counseling and, help. Nabo, so that when he comes back to people who understand that we're starting a new chapter. I'm not longer that person that messed you up.
And I was sick.
Yeah, I had a
sick.
problem. And I would need support still. Because oftentimes we think, we are rehab, everything should just start blooming. No. That's where the real work now starts, where you supporting them, you constantly, involved in their lives and helping them reach whatever goals that they have, So, I think that's basically where the problem is, to say, yes, we take these kids to rehab, they come back, the families are not mentally ready to receive them. The community itself, he's been breaking into houses, doing all sorts of things.
Yes.
When he comes back, they still look at him as that person, and they can feel the stigma. And that on its own is a good enough reason for them to go back, because they feel, what's the use? I've changed, but they're still treating me as that person. I'm not using that as an excuse for them to relapse. We all make our choices. But I'm just saying that it's a reality that we need, as a community, as society, to come to terms with. Uguti, these kids have an illness. Let's treat it as someone who just got cancer, went to hospital and was declared cancer-free. Mababuya, you're no longer feeding them medication and umdog or anything because they healed, right? So the same should apply to say he's gone to get help. He's healed now. He's coming back. We're now moving forward, starting afresh.
The work that you're doing is not for social workers. Government doesn't have similar programs in schools. And the state of public rehabs, to a point where you have to consider maybe private.
I have to be careful what I say because I still eat at that table. I'm saying that because our organizations are beneficiaries of the Department of Social Development.
Okay. Which is a government department.
Yes.
Okay.
So, from experience, most of our young people that we take to your normal government rehab have a higher rate of relapsing.
Okay.
I am not sure what the reasons are, but there's just a whole lot of rumors, which I will not talk about.
No problem.
But it's evident, Uguti, what they're doing is not 100% effective. Okay. Yeah.
The work you're doing is not social work. It's not meant to be done by social workers that are paid, or is it a matter of there aren't enough social workers, or maybe their programs, as great as they may be, are not as effective as the programs you're doing, and you guys are doing the work that they're meant to be doing, which is maybe also why you're a beneficiary, because they're like, look, we have constraints. We don't have enough people working. Maybe they're not as good as you guys. So that's why we're willing to support you. Is that what it is? You're supporting social workers and government, or is it different?
We are supporting because, with Abosanka and all of that, that's the work of I'm a social workers.
Okay.
And obviously there's not enough capacity. Hence, there's, organizations such as us who are a helping hand. And I think the nice thing about our organizations is that we are able to also knock on other doors for more resources. You know, be it donations to be able to afford to take our beneficiaries to private rehabilitations, you know.
I wanted to ask, from like an example of 23,000 for 3 months, how much would an admission be for maybe someone who's going to watch this and be like,
sure,
I just want to contribute to the admissions that you guys pay?
Believe it or not, from 23,000, we were able to get them to agree to an admission fee of 1,000 rand per child.
1,000 rand.
Yes. Right.
Shout out to those facilities, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to them.
Definitely.
And then shout out to any donor that's able to assist with that 1,000 rand per child.
Yeah. You know, and together with that, we try and ask for some of them are from the streets. They don't have clothes. They don't have intozogeza and all
Toiletries.
that. Toiletries. We try and raise that so that they are able to go in there. And some of them, families want nothing to do with them. So we become that family for them.
Yeah.
Meaning when it's visitation, we will go. Phone calls we will call to check as to how they're doing, just so that they don't feel lonely. Remember, it's like taking a private school.
Sure.
They're having to deal with a peer or later is and all of that. And you can't even afford next.
Yeah.
So you want to actually lessen that burden or pressure on them to say, okay, I'm also getting a phone call at least from people to check if I'm okay. I'm also getting visitation. You know, they might not be family, but at least maybe oh, there's somebody here for you.
Yeah.
I also get called to say there's someone there to see me. But more than that, we're doing it so that, you know, we try and contribute to the relapse issue. You know, you want to give them as much support as you can. You want to give them hope. You want to make sure also, because sometimes if we don't get donations, we pop it out from our own pockets. So you don't want that waste. I've just paid money. He's coming back and he's gone back to drugs again, you know. So it's that type of setup.
Before you continue, just a fear from my side. I've got an aunt who used to work at a mental hospital in Sterkfontein, I think, in Kreersdorp. And one of the conversations I've had with her was the concern around, if you're spending so much time around people that are mentally unwell, and with Sterkfontein, it's people that are severely unwell to a point where they are potentially violent. How do you protect your own mind from not getting into that space? I've spoken to doctors and asked, if you're dealing with so much trauma and traumatic cases and what your mom saw with your brother, and someone is dealing with this on a daily basis, do you guys go for counseling? Who's healing you? And what triggered me is you saying we act as a family and we visit them and we speak to them. There's an emotional thing that happens there and there's a mental thing that happens there. Do you ever worry about that for yourself and for your volunteers? And I might end up getting too close, getting too emotional. If they relapse, I'm going to get angry. What if you guys end up being so mentally broken that you maybe start saying, actually, where do you get this thing that numbs your pain? I think I also need it.
I've had to learn to detach. I think with my brother, I started having symptoms of PTSD. You know, where
post-traumatic stress
disorder. Yeah, where you struggle a lot with anxiety. You struggle with fear. You struggle with sleep. You can't sleep. You always, I don't even know how to describe this, but you get irritable. Like, you know, you don't want to be around people and all of that. But I think how we've survived all of this is that we always acknowledge what we are going through.
Okay.
So, for example, as I'm saying to you now with my brother, it was very important for me to take a step back and say, I'm going through this.
Yes, I'm not okay.
I'm not okay. And once you acknowledge, you're able to say, okay, this is the help I need to get. Me personally, I've reached out to people who have gone through something similar. There is a couple from Springs that is friends with my parents. I've reached out to her because she also lost her brother tragically many, many years ago. Yeah. And it's amazing the conversation we're having where she's telling me, Wuti, that altered her. She became this completely different person. she held back. She detached from the world itself. She created the safe space for herself, and people did not understand what she was going through, and she had to figure it out. So with her experience, I'm learning certain things. I'm picking up things that I'm going through at the moment. And because she's experienced it and she's come out on the other side, she's taking me through that on a daily. We talk on a daily basis almost to say, okay, today this is how I'm feeling. There's days when I can't even leave my bed because what's going to happen.
Yeah.
There was a time when I think a few days after we buried my brother, and I saw my other brother with a friend, and I just lost it because now I don't even trust friends.
Sure.
I started asking, who are you? Because I didn't know this guy. Who are you? What do you want with my brother? And the trick here is just acknowledging, Guti, this is not me.
Yeah.
I'm going through something. I need to get help.
Yeah.
And I think individually we're trying our own way to deal with it. Mom is obviously praying hard.
Yeah.
And what I realize is that in praying, that's how she offloads, because she cries a lot while praying. And it's working for her. Julia might have her own way also. Hlaisa is struggling a lot. So Hlaisa begalandelo khunzi, right? And they used to do everything together.
Yeah.
And this really hit him because on the day he woke him up and said, we need to go to the farm. And he was like, I'm not going. And Hlaisa says, there was something that said, I must force him.
Sure. There's
And
that
he
guilt
didn't.
of I should have pushed him.
So he's struggling with that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that he's come forward and said, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
I've hit rock bottom. I need help. So what our dad has taught us is that do not bottle things up. When you're going through something, talk about it. Talk to someone you trust, because I think one of the things that he struggled with his depression is that he would bottle things up and not talk. And that, affected his health. And he taught us that when there's a problem, identify what the problem is and find the help that you need.
Yeah.
So it's important for us to be able to deal with our problems, because you cannot be able to help the other person when you have your own problems. It's like, uguka from an empty well.
Yes.
So we always have to fill ourselves up.
Sure. Pouring
to be
from
able,
an empty cup.
Yeah, so we have to fill ourselves up in order to be able to effectively help those who are in need of our help. Yeah.
I hope your brother gets rid of that guilt. I'm not religious, so I don't know about God's plan and fate, but I do think of the concept of, had he maybe forced your brother, there may have been a bigger tragedy somewhere. You never know why things happen the way they do, but it's got nothing to do with him, because he did the right thing he'd normally do on every other day. It is not his guilt to carry.
Sure.
You run another non-profit, and before you speak about it, I'd like to know, for people that don't know, the difference between an NPO and an NGO, non-profit organization and non-governmental organization. Is there a difference between those two, or is it just the English?
No, there is no difference. NGO is basically a term that's used internationally. So, for example, if you get funding from your Canada or other, they would refer to your organization as an NGO.
Yeah.
So, in South Africa, you can't really go and say, I'm registering an NGO.
Yeah.
You can register an NPO, an NPC, a trust, they all fall under the non-government organizations.
Okay.
Yeah.
You run seminars?
I run seminars.
I say this because I've been invited to speak at one in Isiabonga.
Yeah.
If you can please touch on your seminars leading into the second NPO that you have.
Sure. So you'll see in everything that I say, I'll keep referring to my parents. Because I did say to you, Guti, he had a plan. It was all in writing, and I'm just following exactly in his footsteps. So one of the things that he wanted, because he realized the Guti cannot be everywhere at the same time, he needed to capacitate people around who will be able to do the work that he was doing.
Yeah.
So that's where the seminars came from, where we do these workshops to teach people who have a passion for serving as to what they need to do, the legalities, compliance, how to go about, positioning yourself so that you are eligible for funding from different funders or donors, how to brand yourself, how to run your NPO as a business. It's important because you need sustainability.
Is an NPO a business? Is it a business just without a profit?
It's a business
motive?
without a profit. I think
because I think that's one of the things I've struggled with speaking to people that run initiatives. They don't treat it like a business, and it's one of the reasons they struggle to scale or get funding, etc.
Yeah. One of the reasons I charge for my workshops or seminars is because I want to get rid of that mentality. NPO, mele kube into zamala, agna profit, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I have them in fancy places like the Lakes Hotel we had the last time, Kopanong Hotel, and I charge. It's because I need people with a mentality that understands, Uguti, for you to be able to really run a successful NPO, you need to apply the principles you would apply to a normal business. Be professional. Understand that your beneficiaries are your clients and your donors are your clients. They've got expectations. And also understand that your donor will not be there forever. So as soon as they pull out, as soon as they stop with the funding, right? What are you going to do? Are you going to close shop, or are you going to be able to continue? So I think it's that mindset we need to shift. New people are in the space, or rather younger people are in the NPO space now compared to when we were growing up, where abokoko bekuyibo esaziyo ukuthi bayenza ama-soup kitchen, are running crashes, are running all these organizations that are helping people. Now you've got fresh, smart. Not that I'm saying abokoko were not smart. I'm just saying, the new generation or the younger generation has come into the space, and obviously things will have to run differently. And one of those would be to understand that it has to be run as a business in order for it to be successful and to make an impact.
Are you impressed with the quality of NPOs we have? I ask this with the context of people may not understand that organizations like FIFA are non-profits. When they run these World Cups, they run them as non-profit organizations or NGOs. The Nelson Mandela Foundation is one of the most popular here. We've got Gift of the Givers, which is doing really well. Global Citizen, which brought Abo Beyonce and Abo Jay-Z. Those are huge, huge NPOs. And we speak about business today, where a young child or a young person is starting a bar to a trip, a Tsepo jeans, and they have these dreams of becoming Levi's or Nike or Adidas. Are you impressed with the quality of NPOs that young people are starting? Or is it more like they're starting spaza shop NPOs and maybe there needs to be a talk to guys, you can grow this thing to be huge. You can hire 20,000 people, be based in many countries, and you can do amazing work. And people can be like, my kids go to good schools, I have a good home, I drive a nice car because I founded this NPO or I work at this NPO. And we're not for profit, but we've built something so amazing. I mean, if you look at the Nelson Mandela Foundation as an example, their offices are in Houghton. Some of the work they do and some of the initiatives. If you look at Global Citizen, those artists that were there were paid. They got money. The stadium, the people that did sound, those are people that are like, I've made money. I got paid by an NPO. But it's because someone had the vision of something bigger than just, I'm just going to feed hungry kids. Are you impressed with the quality of NPOs and the mindset of kids that are starting them?
I think for me personally, I could care less about the size. What is more important to me is the impact. Are you changing people's lives in a true sense of it? Yes, you'll find those who go into the NPO space because hey, this department is dishing out grants.
Correct.
You must have an NPO or there's funding there. You must be registered as So our motives for going into the space is obviously different. But for those who truly have a passion, I would say, focus on the impact. And once you do that, you'll be amazed at how you grow and are able to then start creating employment, start becoming this big brand that can be associated with. Now, also, it's important to distinguish or rather to figure out for yourself, Uguti, for me, this is what success means. And for me personally, success was getting to a point where I no longer have to knock on donors' doors, but donors would come to us and say, we've seen the great work that you do. We want to partner with you.
Yeah.
And I'm talking big brands that will say, wow, we are impressed with the work that you do. How about we give you funding to run this program for us? So success will mean different things for different people.
Yeah.
Some will say, I want to be like Gift of the Givers. Uzofika kanjani lapho ungakaqali kancane? Uzofika kanjani if you haven't really defined what it means to be big or to have an impact as an organization, you know? So just have a clear vision as to where you want to go and how you want to get there.
Yeah.
If getting there means that I need to employ 200 people, let it be clear as to how you're going to get to that. And if to you impact is what's more important, then you won't be bothered with employing just 5 people. You'll be surprised at how those 5 people are able to change the whole community.
Sure.
Yeah, but so it's the quality people that you need to have on your team and all sorts of things. Numbers can always follow, you know?
Yeah. I really wish from my side, because I've attended one of your seminars, I hope that they scale. Because to what you're saying, the level of education, specifically in the not-profit space, is lacking. From people who run churches, people who run sports teams, and then people who run maybe community programs or schools programs, to be like, we know you've got a good heart and you're trying to do well, but can we please educate you on the tools that are going to help you to make a bigger impact?
Yeah.
Your second non-profit organization, I find very fascinating. What is it and what do you guys do?
All right. So Puisano is the name.
Puisano.
Puisano. It means like having a conversation.
Okay. Like what we're doing now is Puisano.
Yes.
Dope.
So what we do is we focus on the development of young people, especially those that are out of school. And those that have dropped out of high school especially. I don't know if you've checked the latest stats. Well, I haven't, but I know they're huge. Of school dropouts. These are kids who have not managed to finish matric. So if you look at the numbers of schools, or whether kids who enrolled at grade 1 and you check years later, the ones who actually graduate at matric, the number is scary.
It's very scary.
You know, it could be a number of reasons, but one of those is definitely them dropping out of school due to teenage pregnancy, drugs, poverty, and the list is endless.
Sure.
You know, so we exist to basically close that gap, to say, okay, fine, you made your mistake, you had a baby, you couldn't go back to school, you don't have education right now, you need a skill to be able to, you know, use that to make an income or get an income, get a job, start a business or something like that. So we offer accredited training. We are accredited with different SETAs in different sectors. We source funding to be able to offer our training free of charge. So all our training to youth between 18 and 35 is free. They get an accredited certificate at the end of their training. We also try and, you know, assist with placing them in jobs, be it learnerships or just temporary work, so that they can also get or gain experience. We also assist those who want to start their own, you know, small companies, by either giving them business courses, assisting with registrations of their businesses, etc., and also channeling them to government organizations that offer funding. You know, we would invite the likes of your NYDA, Department of Labor, to come and workshop them as well, just to talk about the opportunities that are out there for them, you know. We try and expose them to potential mentors, very important. The issue of having a mentor in your life. I think young people need to be serious about their lives. Angazi mhlambe sengikhulumiswa ukuthi sengizoba 40. I don't know, but
a woman that exposes her age, jeez.
Oh, I'm okay with that. It's just that I am really worried at how young people take things so lightly. They live for the weekend. Friday, angeke ubathole eklasini. Monday, you won't find them in class. And you wonder, bazoba abazali abanjani or adults abanjani? You know, I kind of feel, I don't know, maybe I'm just too much. I feel like our country is in trouble. It's either our young people are high on drugs, or just don't have education that they need to be able to move this country forward. So, but yeah, that's why we exist, to try and really get the mind right, to say, hey, it's not about the weekend. You're going to get to my age and you realize that you're not that hot anymore. At that age, I mean, they put on lashes. Well, nothing wrong with that. And they could get a free drink. But there will come an age where you will have to pop up that money yourself and get yourself that drink. There will come an age where you would have to pay for your own nails. And if you don't work on it now, you wake up at 40 and you still depend on government grants for the kids.
Child grant.
Child grants, So my wish is for them to really get serious about their future. Because whatever choices you make today, at whatever age you are, really determine the direction that your life will take. It's about time we stop blaming government. Government is not doing this. Government is not doing that. What are you doing? We need to understand that the playing field is not level. It will never be. But that's no excuse to say I won't make it in life. I told you about my story. After high school, I couldn't afford to further my education. I'm studying now, part-time. This is my final year as well. I'm doing my BBA. But I never...
Bachelor of Business Administration.
Yes.
Congrats to you as well.
Thank you. But I was really encouraged by my own kids. So we were like, we're going into this together, So I'm just highlighting, Uguti, if you don't make right choices now, it catches up with you eventually, For me, I had my daughter at grade 12. I was doing my matric.
Jeez, scandalous. What's in Meshack?
Yay.
Sorry, we won't harbor on that. The harbinger. We won't harbor on that. Please continue. So you had your daughter in matric?
At grade 12, yeah. And I think the reason I was able to complete my matric is because I had supportive parents. They were like, hey, you're going to pop her out, go back and write your exams. And, God's timing was just amazing because she was born in September, just after I finished my prelims.
Yeah.
She came out, we had that 1 week break,
Sure.
And then final exams started. So
it wasn't as disruptive as it could be.
Yeah. I'm glad I did the deed at the right month because
this is going sideways.
Anyway, so I'm just trying to highlight to Guti, yes, the choices we make, will eventually catch up with us.
Yeah.
I could have, had I not had my daughter at matric, who knows, maybe life could have turned out differently. I could have been able to say, oh yeah, this is where we are with my peers. They're driving their German cars and, same level type of thing. With me, I had to prioritize umsebenzi after high school to say, okay, I have a baby now. I must go work and feed her.
Yeah.
We won't go into the father of the baby. But yeah, and, it then delayed also my education. I could have gone to but the priorities change as soon as you become a parent. And not everyone is fortunate enough, like I was, to have parents who are supportive, who will say, Hambo Sebenza will look after the child, or Hambo Sebenza will Hambo Funda will look after the child, And so it's really important for them to realize, Uguti, life is not about the weekend. There's more to life than just the weekend. You want to be able to afford your own things. To be in a relationship because you're benefiting financially out of it. Because then you get treated otherwise.
You're opening yourself up to financial abuse.
Exactly. And all sorts of abuse sometimes, So it's good to be able to be independent because then you've got freedom to do what you want to do.
Puisano has got a center. Where's the center based? How many students do you have? And what skills do you guys focus on?
Sure. So our development center is in Davidton, right? Although we've got 2 other centers, I'll talk about those now. So the students that we have right now, I'm not really involved in the operations, but I suspect we currently have.
You're not involved because you've delegated.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Very nice.
Sure.
I struggled though, starting off and having to employ people. You kind of expect them to be like you.
Yeah.
Be sharp and smart like you are. Be
passionate.
Yeah.
And willing to go the extra mile.
Yeah. So I really struggled with delegation for a very long time, where I would rather do the things myself. I just cut you paying someone a salary, but I think I'm getting better at that. That's why I'm able to be here and they're there, and I know things are still moving. So we probably have about 20 students at the moment that are doing end-user computing. It's a 3-month course. It's accredited with the MICT CETA. Okay, meaning that you can use that certificate to be able to apply for jobs. Okay, and what we do also, what we've just introduced recently, is that we identify a top performer in the group, and when they graduate, we gift them with a laptop and a printer.
That's dope.
To be able to, whether they're wanting to start their small internet cafe. I mean, you could start off by typing CVs and charging people for that, and be able to then get more resources to grow, So we do this just to motivate the young people. Believe it or not, as free as our courses are, we still struggle to convince them to come.
Attend.
Yeah.
You?
So we've had to put measures in place to try and motivate them. Come, get some kind of skill, or if you're not interested in the skill and you feel you're educated enough, here's free internet, the computer, search the internet, apply for jobs. If you need to use the phone, free of charge. So everything that we have there is free for young people between 18 and 35.
Davidson Eguruleni in Gauteng, you guys focus on computer skills?
Oh no, there's more.
Okay.
But the class that we have now is your computer skills. We've got furniture making as well, where we teach them upholstery. This is a skill where you're able to fix your couches, etc. And then it's also accredited. And then we also offer life skills programs, right? This is more of a job readiness workshop that we do. And the reason for this is because sometimes you find that youth is not able to find employment, not because they are not skilled, but because they are unemployable.
Okay.
I say that because God. So because I'm a non-profit, obviously my salary scale is not at the level of corporate.
Sure.
So I'm forced to employ sometimes people who don't have experience, people who are straight from school. And it's been a roller coaster. And now I understand why companies will say you must have 1 year experience or 3 months experience, because people will bazagmangas. An incident that I once had years ago was, so you get this intern and you ask them to make a copy of a document.
Yeah.
Now this document laminated, right? Now logic tells you, you can't put that into the feeder because it's plastic and what will happen to the printer?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it was very selfish of me to expect ukuthi mhlambe uzowazi ukuthi printer uma kumele uyifake ku-glass and just put it there to be able to make a copy of that. So such little things.
Things we take for granted.
Oh yeah.
Things we take for granted.
Definitely. Yeah. Like writing a professional email, you'll be surprised at the things we see. But I don't want to dwell in that.
Sure.
I'm trying to emphasize the importance of our life skills programs.
Yeah.
So it's a job readiness program where if you feel you're ready to start job hunting, we prepare you for the interview.
Yeah.
We prepare you as to what to expect in the corporate, professionalism and all sorts of things. So that at least you are ready for that interview. You know what to expect. And if you do get the job, you show up and you are able to do what is expected of you. Yeah. Unlike when you're straight from school, you go into corporate and you have no idea what effects. Effects is a
But some companies that are still dinosaurs, still faxing.
You know, so you have no idea how anything works. You only know how to surf internet on your phone or social media. Like Instagram, you know the ins and outs, but you have no idea how to structure a professional email. Kind regards. You have no idea how to even pick up the phone. At first, I don't know, I must apologize to those who've probably called us and you got a strange hello instead of, a professional welcome to our company. But those are little things that we take for granted, which contribute largely to youth being unemployable.
And I can imagine the apprenticeship that you guys got from your parents, working with them in non-profits, without realizing, you learn how to maneuver accordingly.
Absolutely.
Please briefly touch on the other two centers.
Okay.
Yeah, touch on the other two centers. I want to ask you a question on your thought on the commodification of education.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have another center in Jameson Park. Jameson Park is a small area between Heidelberg and Nigel.
Heidelberg and Nigel.
Yeah.
Is that east, south of Johannesburg?
It's the East Rand. It's close to Nigel.
Okay.
In Nigel falls under East Rand, but Jameson Park falls under Lesedi.
Under Lesedi. Okay.
Yeah, Sidibeng. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So that's basically the Meshack Tabudi Foundation Center.
Okay.
We also offer the free services as well. You can walk into the center, type your CV, print it out.
This is for anyone in the community?
Anyone in the community. Okay. And also sometimes we do offer short courses, be it IT, agriculture, furniture making, etc.
Yeah.
Right. And then we've just recently opened another center in Duduza.
Okay. Duduza is a township.
It's a township.
It used to be an informal settlement. You don't know? It was always a township?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where my dad is from.
Okay.
So, now, free services to youth. But you're not also under the Meshack Tabudi banner. It will focus also, again, on psychosocial. So we will be doing more of our counseling training and getting more volunteers that we can deploy in the schools to assist with the issues. We've also partnered with a organization in Gqeberha, PE, called Masifunde. They more on psychosocial as well.
Okay. This is in the Eastern Cape?
In the Eastern Cape, yeah. They're doing great work. They operate more in the schools, so that's why we clicked so much with them. So we're currently running a program called Change Makers, where we're taking the peer-to-peer approach of dealing with social ills in the schools. So we go into the school, we nominate those who are interested in becoming change makers, we capacitate them to be able to respond to the social ills in the schools. Because we feel that, these kids are more comfortable talking to the age group than they would be with me.
Sure.
So we really train them so much that they are able to know, okay, when somebody says, I've been raped, these are the processes I need to follow to be able to assist them. I'm able to give them counseling. I'm able to involve SAPs. I'm able to involve other stakeholders within the education space to be able to help this individual. So that's basically the program. We want to also run that same program in Ekurhuleni.
Sure.
We work closely with the District North Education, the education district in Ekurhuleni. So we're in talks with them to try and implement the same program in the schools.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you think we should be paying school fees, considering that you running an NPO to pass on skills and many other people have to pay money? The ANC Youth League raised it with Abo Julius, now the EFF. It was an ANC thing that we should not be commodifying education. You should not have to pay to learn. Should all of our universities and other institutions be NPOs?
Mm-hmm. Sure. I'll tackle it from my own experience. You will remember I mentioned that we offer free courses.
Yeah.
And we always have to come up with programs and ways to convince these kids to come to our school and get the skill
that they're getting for free.
So I'm at a point where I kind of wonder whether we have been wired in a way where we're made to believe that free things are not valuable.
Yeah.
You can't put value on them because they are free.
Yeah.
And my fear is that if we were to make everything free, as far as, education is concerned, we might end up with people who are not really serious or will not take this serious because they didn't spend a dime on it.
Yeah.
However, with that being said, I think students who are deserving should be given the opportunity. By deserving, I mean those who are performing well, those who are serious about their schoolwork, but don't have means to be able to further their education.
Yeah.
I'm for that 100%.
Thank you so much. Seipati, I think we'll close it here. The Harbinger of the Millennial. This book is available?
Yes. The book is available. You can visit my dad's website. It's www.meshacktabudi.co.za to order the book.
We'll put it in the description.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so as I said, it talks about his life, the work that he did, and his last days.
And anyone who wants to date you, if they want the blueprint of the ideal man for you, must read the book as well.
I don't... okay, for the sake of promoting the book, yeah.
Your NPOs, do you guys have websites, social media that we can put in the description?
Yes. The Meshack Tabudi Foundation is... So it's www.meshacktabudifoundation.co.za.
Okay.
And Puisano is www.puisano- as in like the minus sign, NPO for non-profit organization.co.za.
Okay.
Right? Okay, there's information on the website. You should be able to find all that information. And we're also on social media. We're on Facebook at Puisano, and then the other one is at Meshack Tabudi Foundation.
Okay. What are some of the things that you really wish? Let's say, for example, potential funders, donors, volunteers are watching. What is the one thing you'd like to get from them? Or some of the things that you're like, guys, we desperately need these things?
Money. Okay, I'm joking.
Give us the money. That was skinny spoo. I don't want advice. Just give me 5 million. I think he was asking for 5 million.
Oh, is it?
For his socks, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yes, volunteers, by all means.
Yeah.
If you have a passion for serving and you don't know how to go about it, please get in touch with us to see how best you can help us. You don't have to be from Ekurhuleni. There's always ways that you can actually help the community within which you operate from.
Yeah.
If you've got a laptop, you've got internet service, I can bet you now you've got matriculants who don't know how to go about applying for bursaries or for tertiary education. Yeah. You could volunteer your time to be able to help with that. And we'll just give you the guidelines on how to.
Sure.
So we don't have to have everyone coming to Puisano or something like that to say, oh, where you are, there is always a need.
Sure.
And one of the things we teach at our workshops is the importance of really doing a feasibility study of the community that you are in. Because the social ills that we struggle with in Davidton might not necessarily be there in Soweto. Soweto might have a different struggle.
Yeah.
And for an organization to be effective and to make an impact, you need to be responding to the problems in that community.
Sure.
So we teach, very important, to understand what the problems are and what solution you then need to come up with.
Sure.
So, money, of course. We can never say no to money. There's always a lot to do. This year, unlike other years, we were not able to do our normal shoes donations, school shoes donations, school bags. What else did we give? Just a whole lot of things we were not able to do. But it's still early.
Yeah.
Anything could still come up. We never rest. We're always knocking. And anyone could still knock at our doors and say, hey, sisalelwe change. And we think we want to put it to a good use. And our work speaks for itself. I think we are one of the organizations that we just got an award recently.
Congratulations.
Yes, we were recognized as the best skills training provider in the community
That's brilliant.
by the FPNM CETA. I should have brought the award.
You should have.
you know. So yeah, so our work speaks for itself. Without bragging, honestly though, I think the reason why we continue to do what we do is because we are one of the few who is still really passionate about seeing change.
Yeah.
Many go into it for many reasons, but for us, even my staff members know ukuthi make figure a donation yama grocer. It's not for us.
Yeah.
It's for the people, right? Make figure in we always prioritize our beneficiaries. So I think we one of the few that still really does what we do with integrity and honesty.
Seipati, thank you so much. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing the story of your family. Beautiful story, and I hope so many other people are going to be involved in the work that you're doing in one or other way. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.